Hello and welcome to the Bears and Lions podcast. This is the podcast where we challenge our present by viewing our past. I'm a firm believer that our greatest future lies within the correct view of our past, because when you actually look at it, there's probably some things that you've gone through that you were like, man, this was really tough. Then there's probably some goals that you set and you actually reach them. And so today's conversation, I'm going to talk about reaching those goals and staying hungry and why that's so important. I also wanted to preview something next week on Sunday. There's going to be an incredible guest session with Jason Prill. He's the play-by-play broadcaster for the Lynchburg Hillcats, which is the single A minor league team for the Cleveland Guardians in baseball. And phenomenal conversation. So you're not going to want to miss that. If you have baseball people in your life, make sure that you hit that follow and subscribe button and then share that podcast and maybe even this one with somebody. It's an incredible conversation today. I was actually really encouraged by all the things that I went through, and I can't wait to share. I will see you on the other side. There's a hunger that's deep within inside you and I, that it is, whether you're just hungry for cereal or just hungry for food or thirsty, there's a hunger where you know you need to satisfy a desire. And it's really interesting how this works with us, right? We have a desire to be better. We have a desire to pursue dreams. We have a desire to be able to graduate college, graduate high school. We have a desire to get promoted or move forward or earn more money or buy a house. We have these things that it's almost like it's eating at us, where we get that hunger pain where it's like we want to do this. We know we need to do this. And I remember back in 2018, I went back to school. I was doing sports broadcasting. At this point, I was on ESPN Plus quite a bit. I was doing a lot of different events, a lot of different sporting events every single week. And I was getting better and better and better. And I remember writing this down in my journal about a memory of mine from when I was young, because I grew up, like most kids, watching Steve Irwin, Roy Crikey. I watched Steve Irwin on Animal Planet, and I loved Animal Planet because you learn so much about the animal kingdom. And I remember watching a little bit. It wasn't like a documentary, but it was one of those like 5-minute segments inside of a show where it was talking about lions and how they hunt and how they learn to hunt. And most of the hunt is done by lionesses, by the way. So the lioness will go out, but they'll also go out together. They often will have young lions as well that will come with them. Sometimes they get in the way. Sometimes they don't do anything at all. But I just remember this vividly, where during the little 5-minute segment, a gazelle was so fast that it got away. And it was like, sometimes the hunt doesn't go the way that it should have. And, they play the dramatic music because it's Animal Planet. It's dun dun, sad that the lions aren't eating. So they have to go on the hunt again. And I wrote this down in 2018 and I shared it on a social media post. And I have a picture, and the same background, I had it as my background for all of 2018. I actually have found that picture, and it's now my phone background again. And it's a picture of a young lion looking up at the words, "Be better." And I wrote down the process from that memory of what I learned is that there has to be a hunger. There has to be a hunger that drives us away from the pride, that drives us away from our comfort, away from ourselves or our home, to go out and do something great. And that doesn't always mean that it's going to end with a win. It doesn't always mean that hunt is going to be perfect. And it's the picture is a daily reminder for me to be hungry, to maintain the hunt mentality, to maintain how I am going throughout my day, to find rhythm in that pursuit, to keep that hunger, because I don't want to lose that, because if I ever do, I will end up becoming stale, to becoming weaker, becoming less agile or less able, right? I'm not able if I'm not running or chasing after things, then the muscle memory is going to get weaker and weaker over time. And so I wrote this down and I shared it on social media, that we have to chase our dreams like a young lion learning to hunt, because success doesn't always mean that we eat. Success means learning the rhythm and movement of our prey. Every hunt, we get faster, we get stronger, and we get smarter. And when we catch a dream, it's not meant to be kept for ourselves. It's meant to be shared with the pride. So learn to chase your dreams down, because the purpose of the hunt is not to be full. The purpose of the hunt is to be better. And I remember writing this down in my journal first, and then I shared it on social media, and I just wrote it down. I just remember thinking, this is the mentality of life that I need to have. I need to always have a drive to be better. I have to stay hungry, because at the end of the day, it's great to reach goals. It's great to have that satisfying meal. But what about when you're hungry again? That hunger will come back. And if you are unprepared for it, then you are going to be less successful in your next hunt. Which leads me to something that I was just recently actually taught and started digging into. And it's when you're most vulnerable. So the lions came full circle in my life. And yes, this podcast is called Bears and Lions. So anytime I hear a statistic or a fact about lions or bears, I immediately perk up. But I heard this from a motivational speaker named Anthony Trucks, and he said the lion is the most vulnerable after it eats. And I actually looked this up, and a lot of giant animals are more vulnerable after they eat, because they have usually exerted so much energy in the process of doing it. But you and I both know that when you have a big meal, you get tired. Lions, depending on their meal, they actually sometimes will sleep for 24 hours, depending on the size of that meal. And it's a reminder that complacency is in all of us. And it can be in all of us. It's a dangerous thing to experience complacency, where after you have reached your goal, or after you've reached a certain aspect, or you've eaten that food, where you just, I need a nap, right? You become complacent and you become completely vulnerable, in the sense that you're not driving for something. You're not waking up. You don't have that motivation to get you back at the grind or anything like that. You've reached your goal. So why are you doing that? There's nothing else there, which is why it's taught me. All of this has taught me the mentality of staying hungry is having multiple dreams, right? And I truly believe it. We must have more than one goal at a time, because I know that we've all felt that feeling after Thanksgiving where, we just need a nap, right? And if the lion is the most vulnerable after it eats, then we're most vulnerable after we reach a goal. We have to have more than one goal at a time, because if we reach one goal, great. But we need something that's going to get us up the next day. And I get, celebrating, and I get having a rest day, and I get having that mentality of like, okay, we did it, and now we can rest a little bit, right? But I think about all the times in my life where I've actually gotten what I was striving for, and then the very next weeks were the hardest weeks of my life. Where it was like, yes, I passed all my classes, or yes, I did this, and now I have to go on to the next step. I mean, even in the process of moving up to Baltimore, where I am now with this new job, I remember applying for a bunch of different jobs. I remember the pursuit of those jobs and how joyous those pursuits were, and how I loved the process of interview prep and even interviewing. I got really good at interviewing, and I actually looked forward to kind of what type of questions are they going to ask. How have I prepared for this? How am I going to answer this? And then I remembered when I finally got this job, when they finally offered the position that I have now, I was so excited. And then there was about a 3-day period right after where I was like, okay, it's time to go to work. I need to start looking for an apartment and all these things. And I was like, okay. So I filled my time with something new, a new goal. And then when I moved up here, I started the job. I got everything moved up here. I was here. I was doing the job. And I realized, oh, shoot. Like, yeah, I want to be good at the job, but I've kind of lacked off in the workout department. I've kind of lacked off in waking up early because I was in this transition where I was so focused on other things. And then I realized, what's my next goal? Like, I have the job now. I know my goal is to like do well in training, but what's my other goal? Like, what's the other things that are driving me? What's going to wake me up earlier than, just I can get to work on time, right? Like if I really want to, I can sleep in really late and then make it to work, and I can still be learning, and I can still be, a socially acceptable person. But what else is driving me? And I really had to look myself in the mirror and say, you're not the person that you are saying that you are in this moment. And I really put back in the work, and I went to the conference and was reminded of some of this stuff. And it just really got me hyped up and encouraged to get back to work. I do have dreams. I do have goals. I do have other areas of my life. I do have things I want to do in the gym. I have aspects of what I want to do outside of work. Of course, I want to be really great at work. Of course, I want to get through training. And so maybe I should put a little bit of extra time into training and a little bit of extra time in my job on the weekends, even though, I technically don't have to. Maybe there's some extra things that I need to do where I can go into the office on days that are work from home, and I can be more productive on those days. There's aspects of it where I realized just because I reached one goal, that doesn't mean I stop working and have time to sleep for 24 hours. And so I was so vulnerable in that. That's what I started doing. I started leaning back into old habits and leaning back into the mentality of I don't really have to wake up, but I love waking up in the morning because I get everything done. I get so much more. I'm so much more productive. So this whole conversation today, I really want to challenge you on the process of staying hungry and staying with the mentality of there are other goals that I have besides this. And when you reach a goal, you celebrate it. It's great. You have earned that goal, right? You're bringing it back. I love the mentality of our dreams are not meant to be kept to ourselves, but we are meant to share that momentum and the occasion with everybody around us that's been a part of our lives and been a part of that dream, and celebrate with that dream and help fill them with inspiring things of, hey, remember how I prepped for this and you helped me with this, or hey, I was able to do this. Maybe if you need any help with this, I can encourage you here, or I see you're going through something tough. I went through this a couple years ago, and this is how it really impacted my life. And you should be encouraged because you're doing a great job. There are things that you go through, and when you get those dreams or you have those experiences, they're meant to be shared with others. And I love that mentality of reminding that there are people out there that really do depend on us, whether we realize it or not, right? And it's not that they depend on us in a clingy fashion. It's they depend on us because we are going through something that they will go through in years to come. And if we go through it completely selfishly and we just, no, I'm not going to share what's going on or anything like that, we steal the ability to share wisdom and share a beneficial thing with them of saying, look, I've gone through this, and this is some wisdom that I can share. Now, their life, they're going to go through things as well, and they have to experience it for themselves. But sometimes we have the privilege of being able to be impactful a part of their lives. So a big challenge is to stay hungry. That honestly, it's more than just, oh, I have a dream that I want to chase it down. Because sometimes you don't reach your dreams. Just like sometimes the lion doesn't end with the hunt. The gazelle is too fast. Sometimes that's the lesson that we learn that we can bring that's valuable to say, look, sometimes we don't win. And you have somebody who's younger who has had a lot of wins together and they think, oh, this is just normal. I'm always going to win. And then they have a loss and it completely crushes them. Those are times when we need to be able to speak life and speak hope into them. I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it on this podcast, but I know I used to say it a lot, that chasing our dreams really have to become less about what we want in life, and it has to become who we want to be in life, right? Do we want to have the actions? Do we want the material of all the success? So do we want the awards? Do we want the money? Do we want the accolades? Or do we want the skill set? Do we want the ability to be the CEO? Do we want the ability to be the winner of the prize? Or do we just want the prize itself? And I think that when you become the award-winning person or the goal-setting and goal-getting person, that's when you are able to be satisfied, yet always thinking of the next goal. And it doesn't diminish any of the goals that you reach, right? You're always thinking, this is awesome. I'm going to soak this in, but I have the skill set to now go to the next step. So what's the next step that we move forward? It's the process of staying hungry. That's going to do it for this conversation. I appreciate you all so much. If you want to find me on my socials, you can find me on TikTok and X, which is formerly known as Twitter, at Kyle Vaught. That's KYLEV as in Victor ATT. If you want to find me on Instagram and Threads, it's Kyle_Vaught. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, I appreciate that as well. Make sure that you share this podcast with a friend or two. Really means a lot to me. Hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube as well. You are super amazing. I hope everybody has an incredible week. We have something very special coming up next Sunday. It's going to be an incredible guest session conversation with a minor league play-by-play broadcaster named Jason Prill out of Lynchburg, Virginia. The Lynchburg Hillcats are the single A minor league team for the Cleveland Guardians. And he and I had an incredible conversation. So that's going to be coming up. You're not going to want to miss that. So make sure that you hit those subscribe buttons and share the podcast around with a friend or two, especially if you have some baseball people in your lives. That's going to do it for everything here. I hope all of you will have a wonderful week. Remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.